First contact with fear. The holographic display in the grand chamber of the Galactic Health Council flickered with crimson warning symbols as High Commissioner Vaxtool, a towering crystalline being, addressed the emergency session. Their translucent form pulsed with waves of deep purple anxiety as they gestured at the projection showing a standard human settlement. Seattle, Earth. The data is undeniable. Vaxtool's voice resonated through the chamber. The pathogen designated as 274 exists in every human population center we've surveyed. By all our understanding, this should be impossible. Their civilization should have collapsed centuries ago. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from Earth's newly appointed observation pod, fighting to maintain her diplomatic composure. After 6 months as humanity's first representative to the Galactic Health Council, she'd grown accustomed to alien peculiarities. But this level of panic over what her people considered a mundane seasonal virus was testing her patience. Honorable council members, she began, her voice steady despite the tension. I assure you that as 274, what we call influenza type A, is well documented and managed on Earth. While it can be serious in some cases, it's not the apocalyptic threat you're describing. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated protests. A gelatinous Murksexy representative undulated in agitation, their translation matrix struggling to keep up with their rapid clicks and whistles. Dr. Chen clearly doesn't understand. As 274 decimated the Centaurian colonies in the Great Plague, 3 billion sentients, gone in a single stellar cycle. Sarah accessed her neural interface, quickly pulling up Earth's historical data on influenza. The facts had to be her anchor in this storm of alien fear. Perhaps we should compare our medical data, she suggested. On Earth, we've developed various treatments and preventative measures. Treatments, interrupted Council Member Zhenra, their feathered crest rising in alarm. You mean your species survives contact with ADS 274 regularly enough to develop treatments? The chamber fell silent. Sarah realized she'd inadvertently dropped a diplomatic bomb. She took a deep breath, choosing her next words carefully. Yes. In fact, we've learned to live with multiple variants of this virus. Our immune systems have evolved alongside it. High Commissioner Vaxtool's crystalline form dimmed to an almost transparent state, a sign of extreme shock in their species. You mean to tell us that your planet is a reservoir of AS 274? That your children grow up exposed to it? We have annual vaccination programs, Sarah explained, bringing up holographic charts of Earth's public health measures. But yes, most humans will encounter multiple strains throughout their lives. Our bodies learn to recognize and fight. Quarantine, shouted a voice from the back of the chamber. We must establish a quarantine immediately. Sarah's neural interface pinged with an urgent message from Earth's united government. Multiple alien vessels entering solar system. Defensive posture, advised. Please, Sarah raised her voice above the growing chaos. This reaction is unnecessary. Humanity has lived with these viruses for millennia. We've developed sophisticated medical science precisely because of our relationship with pathogens, like AS 274. A new figure stepped forward. Dr. Igslith, the Council's chief cynobiologist. Their insectoid features were arranged in what Sarah had learned to recognize as scientific curiosity rather than fear. Fascinating. Perhaps we've discovered why the humans have been such an evolutionary anomaly. The chamber quieted, all attention turning to Dr. Igslith. Consider, they continued, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, Earth is classified as a death world by our standards. The sheer variety of pathogens, the atmospheric oxygen levels, the range of temperatures, everything about their planet should make complex life impossible. Yet humans not only survived but thrived. Sarah seized the opening. Dr. Igslith is correct. Our medical database shows thousands of viruses and bacteria that we've adapted to over time. Our immune systems are incredibly robust because they had to be. This isn't a weakness. It's one of humanity's greatest strengths. High Commissioner Vaxtol's color shifted to a contemplative blue. You're suggesting that your species' notorious resilience comes from constant exposure to pathogens that would annihilate other civilizations. Exactly. Sarah nodded, pulling up more data. Look at our history. Every major disease outbreak led to advances in medicine, in social organization, in technology. We learned, adapted, and grew stronger. Dr. Igslith moved closer to examine Sarah's holographic displays. Remarkable. Your species doesn't just survive these pathogens. You've turned them into evolutionary advantages. The very things that would destroy other civilizations have become tools for your advancement. The chamber's atmosphere began to shift from panic to cautious fascination. Sarah felt the first glimmer of hope that this crisis might turn into an opportunity. But then her neural interface pinged again. Alien vessels, no. Number 47. Requesting immediate guidance. High Commissioner, Sarah addressed Vaxtol directly. I propose a compromise. Instead of quarantine, let us establish a joint research initiative. Humanity's experience with AS-274 and similar pathogens could be invaluable to galactic medicine. We could help develop treatments that work for other species. Vaxtol's crystalline form shimmered with rapidly changing colors as they considered the proposal. The risk is far less than the potential benefit, Sarah finished. Think about it. Every major species here has lost colonies to AS-274. But humans, we've learned to live with it. We could teach others to do the same. Dr. Igslith's antennae quivered with excitement. The scientific possibilities are extraordinary. Human immune responses could revolutionize our understanding of pathogen resistance. The chamber buzzed with discussion. Sarah watched as fear gradually gave way to scientific curiosity. Humanity's first major crisis in galactic politics transforming into something entirely unexpected. High Commissioner Vaxtol raised their appendages for silence. Dr. Chen, your proposal has merit. But understand, this changes everything. Your species isn't just joining the galactic community. You're bringing with you capabilities we never imagined possible. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. High Commissioner, I believe that's going to be a common theme in humanity's relationship with the galaxy. As the Council began drafting protocols for the new research initiative, Sarah sent a message back to Earth. Crisis averted. Prepare medical facilities for alien research teams. And someone please tell the Defense Forces they can stand down. We're not going to be quarantined. We're going to be teaching. The Great Chamber, so recently filled with panic, now hummed with possibility. Humanity's first major galactic crisis had revealed not a weakness, but a strength. And Sarah Chen, watching alien scientists already clustering around her medical displays, knew this was just the beginning. The Quarantine Declaration. News of Earth's pathogen reservoir status spread through the galactic community like wildfire. Within days of the Council session, the Orion Arm was alive with speculation, fear, and fascination. Spacecraft from dozens of species maintained a cautious distance from Earth's solar system, their sensors constantly monitoring for any sign of biological contamination. Admiral Helena Torres stood at the viewport of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the distant lights of alien vessels glitter against the void. Each one represented a civilization that now viewed humanity as both a miracle and a menace. Another request for emergency quarantine protocols, her eye assistant, Aria, announced. The Proximan Confederation is particularly insistent this time. Helena rubbed her temples. Add it to the pile. How many does that make now? 17 separate species have formally requested Earth's isolation. However, Dr. Chen's research initiative has gathered 23 supporters among the Council races. The situation was balanced on a nice edge. While some alien species saw opportunity in humanity's unique biology, others viewed Earth as a pandemic waiting to happen. The fact that humans could casually coexist with viruses that had wiped out entire civilizations had shattered the galaxy's understanding of biological warfare. Her comm unit chimed with an urgent alert. Dr. Sarah Chen's hologram materialized in the office, her expression tense. "Admiral, we have a situation. The Merc 6E just released their historical records of the AS-274 outbreak in their colonies. It's worse than we thought." Helena gestured, and the data filled the air around her. The numbers were staggering. Entire star systems quarantined, billions dead, civilizations reduced to scattered survivors. All from a virus the humans treated with bed rest and chicken soup. "The militant factions are using this to push for immediate action," Sarah continued. "They're calling Earth a biological weapon waiting to happen. The Merc 6E defense fleet is mobilizing." "They're not wrong about the weapon part," Helena admitted. "Not about our intentions, but the potential. How many viruses do we carry that could devastate their populations?" That's exactly what Dr. Igslith's team is trying to determine. The preliminary results are fascinating. It's not just AS-274. Humans are walking reservoirs of thousands of pathogens that could be catastrophic to alien biology. Our very existence challenges their basic concepts of quarantine and disease control. A new alert flashed across Helena's display. The Merc 6E fleet had crossed the designated safety perimeter, their weapons systems actively scanning Earth's defenses. "They're testing our responses," Helena observed, "trying to gauge how serious we are about defending our sovereignty." Sarah's hologram flickered with static. "The Council is in emergency session. High Commissioner Vaxtool is trying to maintain order, but the fear is overwhelming rational discussion. We need more time for the research team's tow." The transmission cut off as a massive energy surge rippled through space. The Merc 6E fleet had activated their quarantine shields, massive energy barriers designed to contain biological threats. They're attempting to establish a containment field around the entire solar system, Aria reported. Additional fleets from the Proximan Confederation and the Centaurian Remnant are approaching. Helena's training kicked in. "Launch our sensor buoys. I want full coverage of their fleet movements, and get me a direct line to the Galactic Council." The next few hours were a blur of diplomatic exchanges and military maneuvers. Earth's defense forces maintained their positions, neither retreating nor advancing, while Helena worked with Sarah to prevent the situation from escalating into open conflict. "Your fears are understandable," Helena addressed the Council, her hologram standing firm in the Grand Chamber. "But consider this. If humanity were truly the threat you fear, we would have unintentionally destroyed your exploration teams on first contact. The fact that we can interact safely proves that we've learned to control our biological impact." Dr. Igslith stepped forward, their scientific authority carrying weight even in this crisis. "The Admiral speaks truth. Our research shows that humans have developed sophisticated containment protocols through centuries of trial and error. Their medical technology, while different from ours, is remarkably effective at preventing pandemic spread." But the Merc 6E representative was unmoved. "We cannot risk another Great Plague. The quarantine shields will remain until we are certain of our safety." That's when Sarah Chen made her bold move. "Then let us prove it to you. I propose a controlled demonstration. Let your scientists observe as we deliberately expose human volunteers to AS-274 in a contained environment. Watch our immune systems in action. See how we've learned to live with what you fear most." The chamber erupted in shocked discussion. The idea of deliberately exposing anyone to AS-274 seemed insane to most species, but that was exactly the point Sarah was trying to make. High Commissioner Vaxtool's crystalline form pulsed with intense colors. Such a demonstration would be unprecedented. The risk would be minimal to the human volunteers, Sarah assured them. "We do similar studies regularly in our medical research. This is your chance to understand exactly how we coexist with these pathogens." Helena watched the council members' reactions carefully. The proposal was radical, but it offered a way forward that didn't involve military confrontation. And more importantly, it would give humanity a chance to demonstrate that they weren't just carriers of deadly diseases, they were masters of them. The United Earth government supports this proposal, Helena declared, under strict oversight from both human and council medical teams, of course. The energy in the chamber shifted. Fear began giving way to scientific curiosity once again. Even the Merc-Sexy representatives' hostile postures softened slightly. High Commissioner Vaxful raised their appendages. We will need time to establish proper protocols. But, yes, this demonstration may be the key to understanding humanity's unique place in our community. As the Council began drafting the parameters for the study, Helena sent a private message to Sarah. Bold move. Let's hope it works. Sarah's reply was confident. It will. Because once they understand how we've learned to live with these viruses, they'll realize we're not just carrying ancient plagues. We're carrying the solutions to them. The quarantine shields remained in place, glowing ominously around Earth's solar system. But now they served a new purpose, containing not just humanity's greatest threat, but potentially their greatest gift to the galaxy. The question was whether the rest of galactic civilization was ready to accept both. Understanding the impossible. The quarantine laboratory aboard the Galactic Council's research station, Horizon, hummed with activity. Through triple-layered containment fields, dozens of alien scientists watched in fascinated horror as Dr. Maya Rodriguez deliberately exposed herself to a strain of AS-274 virus. Vital signs remained stable, Dr. Ixlith announced, their compound eyes fixed on the biomedical readouts. Subject's immune response is extraordinary. The speed of antibody production defies our previous models. Maya sat calmly in the isolation chamber, knowing she was making history. As both a virologist and a volunteer, she represented humanity's confidence in their own biological resilience. The fever should begin within 12 to 24 hours, she explained, her voice carried through specialized filters. That's a feature, not a bug, if you'll pardon the pun. The alien researchers exchanged confused glances at her attempt at humor, but Dr. Ixlith's antennae twitched in what Maya had learned was appreciation. Over the past weeks, the insectoid xenobiologist had developed a deep fascination with human biology. You deliberately raise your internal temperature, Ixlith noted, creating an environment hostile to the pathogen, while your immune system mobilizes. Most species would consider this self-destructive. Most species don't come from Earth, Maya replied. Our planet taught us harsh lessons about survival. We learned to weaponize our own biological responses. In an adjacent observation room, Sarah Chen and Helena Torres watched the proceedings with a mix of pride and concern. The demonstration was going well, perhaps too well. Every new revelation about human biological capabilities seemed to both impress and unnerve their galactic audience. The Merc-Sexy delegation is requesting additional containment protocols, Helena murmured, checking her neural interface. They're still convinced this will end in disaster. Sarah nodded. Can't blame them. Imagine watching someone casually play with something that killed billions of your people. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden burst of activity in the lab. Maya's first symptoms had begun to manifest, hours earlier than expected. Fascinating. Dr. Ixlith's excitement was palpable. The subject's immune system isn't just fighting the virus, it's actively adapting to it. These response patterns, they're unlike anything in our medical database. Maya's voice came through the calm, slightly hoarse but steady. That's because we've had millennia of co-evolution with these pathogens. Our immune systems don't just fight them, they learn from them. The observation chamber filled with more alien scientists as word spread. Representatives from species that had previously demanded Earth's quarantine now watched in rapt attention as Maya's body demonstrated its natural defenses. The virus is being neutralized at an accelerated rate, one of the Centaurian researchers noted. And the human's cellular structure, it's not just resisting damage, it's becoming more resistant to future infections. Dr. Ixlith manipulated the holographic displays, highlighting specific aspects of Maya's immune response. This goes beyond mere resistance. Humans don't just survive these pathogens, They integrate the experience into their immune memory. Each exposure makes them stronger. In the observation room, Sarah felt a shift in the atmosphere. The fear that had dominated alien reactions to humanity was giving way to something else. Recognition of potential. "They're finally starting to understand," she whispered to Helena. "We're not just carriers of disease. We're living proof that coexistence with these viruses is possible." But the breakthrough moment was interrupted by an urgent alert. One of the containment field sensors was detecting anomalies. "The virus is mutating," announced a sexy scientist, their gelatinous form pulsing with alarm. "The human immune response is forcing it to adapt." The laboratory erupted in panic. This was exactly the scenario that had haunted alien nightmares, a human-enhanced supervirus. But Maya's voice cut through the chaos. "This is normal," she called out. "This is how we've developed our immunity. The virus evolves. We adapt, it evolves again. It's a biological arms race that's been going on since before we developed written language." Dr. Ixlith moved closer to the containment field, their scientific curiosity overriding caution. "You mean this mutual evolution is intentional? Part of your species development?" "Not intentional," Maya explained, wiping sweat from her forehead. "But necessary. Earth's pathogens helped shape us into what we are. Every plague, every pandemic, they were harsh teachers, but they forced us to become stronger." The data flowing from Maya's biosensors told a compelling story. The virus was indeed mutating, but her immune system was keeping pace, developing new antibodies and responses in real time. It was an evolutionary dance that had played out countless times in human history. "I believe," Dr. Ixlith announced to the chamber, "we are witnessing not just an immune response, but a demonstration of why humans have survived on their death world. Their relationship with pathogens isn't merely adversarial, it's transformative." Sarah stepped forward, sensing the moment was right. "This is why quarantine isn't the answer. Humanity has developed this resilience through constant adaptation. We can help other species develop similar defenses, not through isolation, but through careful, controlled exposure and medical support." The laboratory fell silent as the implications sank in. Maya's demonstration had shown more than just human immunity. It had revealed a possible path forward for species that had lived in fear of pathogens for millennia. Dr. Ixlith's next words would change the course of galactic medicine forever. "We must reconsider everything we thought we knew about biological adaptation. The humans aren't a threat to be contained. They're a blueprint for survival." As Maya's fever began to break, marking the success of her immune response, the atmosphere in the laboratory had transformed. Fear had given way to hope, and humanity's greatest perceived weakness had become, perhaps, their greatest contribution to galactic civilization. But in the depths of space, beyond the quarantine shield still surrounding Earth, new challenges were brewing. The virus's mutation hadn't gone unnoticed by other parties, and not everyone saw humanity's unique capabilities as a gift to be shared. The coming storm. The emergency alert cut through the night shift aboard the Horizon Research Station. Dr. Sarah Chen bolted awake in her quarters as the AI's voice echoed through the corridors. "Containment breach detected in Laboratory 7. All personnel implement quarantine protocols immediately." Her neural interface flooded with data as she rushed toward the crisis center. The numbers made her blood run cold. As 274 had mutated far beyond their predictions, and it had found a way through the supposedly impenetrable alien containment technology. "How bad?" she demanded, bursting into the control room where Admiral Torres and Dr. Ixlith were already coordinating responses. 3 Centaurian researchers exposed," Helena answered grimly. "The virus appears to have adapted to their biology. We've never seen anything like this rate of mutation." Through the observation windows, Sarah watched hazmat teams rushing through the corridors. The station's quarantine barriers shimmered into place, creating a labyrinth of sealed sections. "This makes no sense," Dr. Ixlith chittered, their compound eyes fixed on the data streams. The mutation rate exceeds all known parameters. Even with human immune system interaction, this level of adaptation should be impossible. Maya Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system from her isolation lab, where she was still under observation. Unless it was engineered to do exactly this. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. Someone weaponized the research data, Helena said softly. They used our demonstration of human immunity to create something that could breach alien biological defenses. Sarah's neural interface pinged with an urgent message from Earth. Similar outbreaks were being reported at research facilities across human space where alien scientists had been studying AS-274. This wasn't an accident. It was a coordinated attack. The Mark-6 were right, one of the alien scientists whispered. Humanity is a biological weapon. No, Sarah snapped. This isn't humanity's doing. Think about it. Whoever engineered this virus used our research, yes, but they're targeting both humans and aliens. They want to force a permanent quarantine between our species. Dr. Ixlith's antennae quivered as they processed the data. The virus shows signs of multiple engineering signatures. Some of this technology isn't human in origin. Someone doesn't want humanity joining the galactic community, Helena concluded, and they're willing to start a pandemic to prevent it. The infected Centaurian researchers were deteriorating rapidly. Their biology, so different from human systems, had no defense against this engineered hybrid of human and alien pathogens. But there was something else in the medical readings that caught Sarah's attention. Maya, she called over the comm. Are you seeing this? The virus's core structure. It's still based on AS-274. It still responds to human antibodies. Yes, Maya's voice was excited despite her fatigue. Our immune response might not stop it completely, but it could slow it down enough to give other species a fighting chance. If we could synthesize. She was interrupted by new alarms. The virus had breached another containment level. We don't have time for synthesis, Helena said. This thing will spread through the station's life support systems within hours, and if it reaches any of the ships docked here, then we do it the old-fashioned way, Maya declared. Direct plasma transfer from human volunteers. Our antibodies might not be perfect, but they're the only defense anyone has right now. The proposal was radical. Using human blood products to treat alien species had never been attempted. The biological compatibility risks alone were daunting. The potential complications, Dr. Ixlith began, are better than certain death, Sarah finished. We need to evacuate all non-essential personnel, seal off the affected sections, and call for every human volunteer we can get. And we need to do it now. Helena was already coordinating with Earth's defense forces. I'm implementing Protocol Omega. All ships are to maintain quarantine distance from the station. No one leaves until we contain this. Through the observation windows, Sarah watched as more hazmat teams rushed past, carrying stasis pods with infected aliens. The station's corridors, usually bustling with diverse life forms, were becoming eerily empty as sections were sealed off one by one. They're calling it the Chimera virus, Maya reported from her lab. The genetic analysis shows markers from at least 7 different species pathogens, all woven around that AS-274 core. This wasn't just engineered. It was designed to create exactly this crisis. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on them. Humanity's first major contribution to galactic society had been transformed into a weapon, but their unique biology might also be the only solution. Begin emergency protocols for plasma transfer, she ordered, and get me a secure channel to the Galactic Council. They need to know this isn't just about protecting Earth anymore. Someone's trying to force every spacefaring species back into isolation, and we're the only ones who can stop it. As the station's medical bays filled with the sick and dying, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity's curse of carrying deadly pathogens had become the galaxy's last hope for survival. Now they just had to prove they could be trusted with that responsibility. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, someone had decided that the risks of human integration into galactic society were too high. They had created a virus that should have driven humanity back into quarantine. Instead, they had given humanity the chance to demonstrate why they belonged among the stars. The question was, would they be able to save enough lives to prove it? Unity through adversity. The Horizon Station's medical bay had been transformed into an improvised crisis center. Hundreds of humans had volunteered for the emergency plasma donation program, their beds arranged in long rows alongside the alien patients they were trying to save. The sight would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. Human blood flowing directly into the bodies of species that had once demanded Earth's permanent quarantine. Dr. Maya Rodriguez moved between the beds, checking readings and adjusting treatment protocols. Despite her own recent viral exposure, she had refused to rest. The Centaurian group is showing improvement, she reported to Sarah Chen. Their cellular degradation has slowed by 60%. Sarah nodded, her neural interface continuously streaming updates from treatment centers across human space. Similar makeshift procedures were being attempted wherever the Chimera virus had spread. The HFY aren't responding as well. Their biology is just too different. We need to modify the plasma filtration. Dr. Igslith worked alongside them, their multiple limbs manipulating sophisticated medical equipment. The virus's adaptive capabilities are unprecedented. It's as if it was designed to exploit the biological differences between species, turning our diversity against us. That's exactly what it was designed to do, Admiral Torres said, entering the medical bay. Her uniform was wrinkled from days without rest. We found something. The virus's base code contains markers from classified military research, both human and alien. Sarah's blood ran cold. A collaboration. Rogue elements from multiple species, Helena confirmed. Extremists who believed that interspecies contact would inevitably lead to devastating plagues. They decided to trigger a controlled pandemic to force every species back into isolation. The irony, Maya said softly, is that they proved exactly the opposite. Look around you. The medical bay told a powerful story. Humans were literally giving their blood to save alien lives. Species that had evolved on different worlds, breathing different atmospheres, and metabolizing different elements, were working together in ways their ancestors would have thought impossible. The latest data from the Centaurian patients is remarkable, Dr. Igslith announced. The human antibodies aren't just fighting the virus. They are teaching the Centaurian immune systems how to recognize and combat it. They're learning from each other. A commotion at the medical bay entrance drew their attention. A delegation of HFY officials had arrived, their gelatinous forms pulsing with urgency. We were wrong, their leader announced, their translator struggling to convey the emotion in their harmonic speech. Our fear of human biological capabilities blinded us to their potential. The HFY conclave has voted to share our complete biological database, including our classified research on the Great Plague. Perhaps together we can find a permanent solution. It was an unprecedented offer. The HFY had guarded their biological secrets for millennia. The quarantine shields around Earth, Helena said. They're powering down. Through the station's viewport, they could see the massive energy barriers that had contained Earth's solar system beginning to fade. Ships from dozens of species were moving closer, no longer afraid of biological contamination. We're receiving similar offers from 17 other species, Sarah's neural interface reported. They're all willing to share their medical knowledge. The Galactic Council is calling for the establishment of a permanent interspecies medical exchange. Maya looked up from her patients, her eyes bright despite her exhaustion. The extremists wanted to prove that different species couldn't safely coexist. Instead, they proved that we need each other to survive. Dr. Igslith's antennae quivered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. Human biology is not just remarkably adaptive. It's compatible with a wide range of genetic modifications. Your species could become a bridge between biologically incompatible races. The implications were staggering. Humanity's greatest perceived threat, their ability to carry and transmit pathogens that devastated other species, had become their greatest gift to galactic civilization. The virus is still out there, Helena reminded them. And whoever engineered it won't be happy about this outcome. Let them come, Sarah said firmly, because now they won't be facing individual species. They'll be facing all of us together. And thanks to them, we now know that our biological differences don't have to divide us. They can make us stronger. In the medical bay, another Centaurian patient's vital signs stabilized. The human plasma treatments were working better than anyone had dared to hope. But more importantly, the knowledge gained from this crisis would help prevent future ones. Send word to Earth, Sarah instructed her neural interface. Tell them to begin converting some of our medical facilities into interspecies treatment centers. And tell them, she smiled, watching humans and aliens working side by side to save lives. Tell them that humanity has finally found its place in the galaxy, not as a threat to be contained, but as a bridge between worlds. The chimera virus had been engineered to force every species back into fearful isolation. Instead, it had brought them together in ways its creators had never imagined possible. As Sarah watched a young human doctor carefully explain treatment protocols to a fascinated group of alien medical students, she knew that this crisis had changed more than just medicine. It had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. Humanity's journey to the stars had begun with fear and quarantine. It would continue with cooperation and hope. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.